Hey everyone, it's Allie from Chairside Chats. In this episode, I had the opportunity to visit with Doug. Doug is a retired plumber slash business owner. He owned and operated his own plumbing business for several years. Doug shared different insights with me on what it's like running a business, what it's like having employees, what the apprenticeship program looked like then compared to now. And he also shared different tips on how you can avoid common problems with your plumbing in your home. I hope you enjoy this episode. How did you decide that you even wanted to start doing plumbing? How'd that come about?
Well, plumbing wasn't my first choice. My first choice was upholstery.
Okay.
And we did upholstery work. We'd cover sofas and chairs, and we got into doing floor coverings, carpet and vinyl in houses, linoleum and stuff like that. And my dad had a business in that. And so me and all my brothers worked in that business. And it was doing really good. And then one day my dad come to me and he says, after I had gotten married, he come to me and says, "We're really slow. Is there any way you can find a job for a couple of weeks? And then as soon as business picks up a little bit, I'll call you back." And I said, okay. So I called Nita's dad up and I said, "I need a job for a couple of weeks. Do you have anything I can do?" And he says, "Well, not really, but come over and we'll see what we can do." So I came over, and at the end of 2 weeks, he says, "You have a job for here forever if you want it." But he says, "I understand if you need to go back and work for your dad." And I said, "No." I called my dad up when he says that I could come back. And I said, "Dad, I think I like this more than upholstery work." And so I just stayed working for my father-in-law, never went back.
So it was Nita's dad's business first, or did you take over for the business or start your own?
No, I worked for my dad. And the way I started with my dad was that I was in probably about 5th grade, and he had an upholstery shop, and then he had a trading post. So he
Okay.
traded,
Yeah,
different items with, for money and for just items to items.
that's cool.
And so I started working and organizing things in there. And one day he come to me and he told me, he says, "You can't do this." He says, I didn't hire you." And I said, "But I want to work." And he says, "But you're a kid. You need to
Yeah.
go out and play and have fun." And I says, "I don't want to do that. I just want to work." And he says, well, he tried to discourage me because he says, "Someday you're going to have to work."
Yep.
And he says, "So be a kid now." So I just told him, "No, I'm going to work." And he said, "Well, if you do, then I got to pay you." He says, "But if I pay you, you now have to pay rent, stay in the house.
Okay.
You have to buy your own school books. You have to pay for your own school tuition. You have to buy your own school clothes." And he thought that would discourage me from working. And I said, "Okay, fine, done deal." And so I started working in 6th grade.
Oh my gosh.
And I worked from 6th grade on, being paid. And about a year and a half prior to that, I did it for free because I just wanted to have fun,
Yeah.
work. And then I did that till I met Nita. We got married. And I think I worked for my dad maybe a year, I believe it was. And that's when my dad's business slowed down a little bit. And I went to my father-in-law and we started doing plumbing.
Okay.
And then I retired from plumbing.
Okay.
So I stayed. That was in 1977 when I started plumbing.
Oh my gosh. So back then, did your father-in-law train you, or like, did you have to go to school? What did your schooling look
I
like?
could go to school.
Okay.
The way the apprenticeship course there worked, it was back when you went to, I think it was called UVSC
Yeah.
back then.
Mhm.
And they had a night school class you had to go take. You had to do 2 nights a week for 3 hours a night. And we were married. We had started our family. So it was really hard. And we lived in Lehigh, and I worked in Spanish Fort.
Mhm.
And so I would I'd work all day. Then I would leave there and go to school. So I would get home from school till 10 o'clock at night. And we'd do that twice a week. With the apprenticeship program back then, it was a 4-year course.
Okay.
And you, at the end of that course, 4 years of school, you could go into commercial or residential, both. It doesn't matter. You was licensed to do journeyman for everything. And that was only journeyman. Then you had to go take another test for contracting on
Okay.
top of that with the state. But if you got good grades in school and you didn't miss any school, you could do it in 3.5 years. So I did it in 3.5 years because I didn't want to
Yeah.
prolong it for
Yeah.
6 months. So I got out of that and I worked for her dad for that 3.5 years. And then I continued to work with him for a while. I think about 10 years is what I worked for him. And then I went to my plumbing contractor's license test. And then I went out on my own. That was the first time I went out on my own. And I sold that business to my little brother. And Nita's dad ended up with cancer, and he called and asked if we could come back and help him. He couldn't work, not doing very good health-wise. So I told him he had 7 years. 7 years, then I was going to start my own business again.
Mm-hmm.
So we sold our business, come back, worked for him. And it was only about 6 years or so, and he passed away. And then we kept his customers happy and what customers we had, and we just moved on from there.
Is that Heritage Plumbing when you started that one?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so is Heritage Plumbing still going today?
It is.
Did you sell it?
What we done is Heritage Plumbing, and the reason it's called Heritage Plumbing is Nita's grandfather started plumbing, and it was R. Dean Johnson in 1936, 7, somewhere right in there.
Yeah.
He was the second plumber in state of Utah to get his plumbing license.
Wow.
And he started a business in Spanish Fork. Then when he retired, he had a son and 2 daughters, and none of them wanted the business. And so his one daughter, Renee, was married to Jay, and he decided he wanted to get into plumbing. So when Dean retired, Jay took it over. When Jay got cancer, he ended up with cancer 4 times, and we took it over. And so we called it Heritage Plumbing because it started out R. Dean Johnson, J. Ainge Plumbing. We went to Heritage Plumbing because there was a heritage of plumbers, and that's what it's about, Heritage Plumbing.
I love that.
And now Heritage Plumbing is owned by my youngest brother.
Okay.
And so it is still going.
Oh my gosh, that's really cool.
Been going for a lot of years.
Yeah, that's crazy. How is the schooling or do they do an apprenticeship program now? How is it different today than it was back when you did it?
Now, back then when I did it, anybody could sign up and do it. It didn't matter. You didn't have to have any prior education or knowledge or anything. And now you pretty much have to have the equivalent of a bachelor's degree in order to sign up for the plumbing course.
Wow.
And you start off with 3.5 years, and then you sign up again for your 4th year. And 3.5 years is residential plumbing. The extra year is for commercial plumbing.
Okay.
And so it's different more just because of the education you have to start it.
Yeah. Do people typically stick to one or the other? If someone goes the extra schooling to get the commercial part, are they going to just stay doing commercial, or are they going to do residential too? How does that
you
usually
get
work?
kind of both, but the more things are going and evolving, it's getting to where people specialize now. So there might be a plumber, and even though he's went to school and he's got his license and he's capable of doing water lines, drain lines, service work, and whatever in residential, people are specializing, so all they do is water lines, or all they do is drain lines,
Okay.
or all they do is set fixtures. And those guys that specialize in there, they don't know how to plumb anything else. That's all they do. And there are some people that do that. That's all they do in their whole life.
Yeah.
Me, I wanted to do all of it.
Yeah.
So we did water and sewer lines in the road.
Okay.
We did sewer laterals coming in. We plumbed houses from start to finish, and we did the same with commercial. And then we did all the service work to keep them going and maintain them and take care of them in both commercial and residential.
Okay. So, just for me and people that might not know, residential is just houses. But when you say commercial, is that the in the ground stuff, or is that like businesses, buildings, big buildings? How do you differentiate the two?
The state defines it as a duplex or smaller,
Okay.
a single family dwelling or a duplex. That's residential. When you get to threeplex or bigger, that becomes commercial.
Okay.
Or if it's a business downtown or a big business, in an industrial park, that's commercial stuff.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. But like when you're talking about the water lines and stuff in the ground, that could go either way. Could it be for a residential, you're dealing with water lines in the ground to a house and a commercial building?
And that's where the licenses kind of
Okay.
cover both areas, because that's the same water supply or the same sewer drain line that supplies both residential and commercial.
Okay.
They all drain into the same system. So if you have residential, you could still do that.
Okay.
But there's another license now. Back when I started, you could still do that and cover all of it. And now they have an engineering license that is covered under.
Wow.
So if you want to run waters and sewers out in the street, now you need to be covered under engineering license.
Okay.
We had that, but we never did really need it, because when we were doing it, it covered it under our plumbing licenses.
Yeah. Okay. Did you ever do apprenticeship programs for people that worked for you?
Yes.
Okay. How does that work?
What we used to do is we would encourage a person to come and work for us. If they were a good employee and they did what we wanted, they tried hard, they were the kind of employee we were looking for, then we would offer them to pay for their schooling if they would go to school.
Yeah.
We'd pay for them the time off to go to school. We'd pay for the books and the tuition and everything for them to go to get that education. All we required is that they worked for us the years that they were going to school and 1 year longer.
Yeah.
And then they could go anywhere they wanted after that.
That's a great deal.
Yes.
Like that.
Yeah, it can save a lot of money.
Yeah. And I don't know how many other companies would be willing to do that for someone.
There's a few in the trades.
Yeah.
And that's not just plumbing, but that's other trades.
How they work.
We'll do that.
Okay.
Because you're trying to find good employees.
Yeah.
Then you want to try and keep them, and that's incentive for them to stay.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. This is one that I kind of, so you worked for your father-in-law before, so you had a little bit of on-the-job training, but this was the question that my dad wanted to know. Like how much of the stuff that you learned in school and during your training did you actually use while you were on the job?
My school training?
Yeah.
I would say less than 5%.
Yeah.
95% was on job.
That's kind of what he was, because he did the plumbing stuff at the school district and that. So he's like, I feel like just a lot of the stuff that it's just on the job. You learn better.
It is on the job. Get your hands dirty and get in and do it and learn it.
Okay. Let's talk about what did your day-to-day look like a normal day working? What does that look like?
Well, it was different when I was working for somebody than when I was self-employed. When I was working for somebody, I would show up at work in the morning and they would give me a list of jobs to do. And then I would go out and I would just do them one at a time until I was done at the end of the day. Now and again, they'd call me and say, hey, we got one more or whatever. And that was pretty much my day. And I didn't choose where I went. I went wherever they told me to go. When it became my business, then I was able to choose where I wanted to go and how I wanted to do that and schedule it my way. But our day started in the morning, and sometimes it could be 5 or 6 in the morning because we'd go out in the office and do a certain amount of book work or scheduling or getting parts ready to go. Employees would show up at about 7:45, and then we would give them jobs that we wanted them to go do. And when the phone rang, then we had to find a way to get that job done too, because we believed that when that person called, they needed that done then. So we tried to do, if 10 people called that day, we done 10 jobs that day, plus the jobs we were already going to do. So you never knew when your day was going to end, but you knew when it started, but you didn't know what jobs you'd be doing. Every day was new.
Yeah. That's great. I'm sure the customers love that though, knowing that they could rely on you.
Yeah.
You'd call you and you'd get it done. Because, plumbing, it's an emergency. They're calling you for a reason. Something's wrong.
Well, I had a different definition of emergency in cases. I had a job one time where the lady calls me and it's an emergency. I'm living in Lehigh at the time. I drive clear to Spanish Fork, get my truck, drive all the way down to her house, and she's standing there washing dishes, and she's like, I don't know what it is, but water keeps leaking out from underneath the sink.
Oh, geez.
And she's washing dishes. Well, the P-trap on the bottom of the sink had a hole in it. Well, if you'd just drained the water, the emergency would have been gone. That was a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I don't do emergencies much.
No.
Because most time people, what they will declare as emergency wasn't really an emergency.
Right.
It's something that you could put off till tomorrow and get it during normal hours.
Yeah.
So we did emergencies, and we had some that were really was emergencies. Told Nita about a job in Provo. It was about a 100-unit apartment complex. They called me. It was on a weekend. And they said, we got a water leak. We need somebody now. We get in the truck. We run over. And the water line's got a leak in it, spraying across the room and hitting the electrical panel.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, that's an emergency.
That's an emergency.
Yeah. So,
Oh my
yeah, we would
gosh.
do those things.
Oh my goodness. That's crazy. That might bring us to, well, yeah, so emergency calls. While we're on the subject, we could talk about what's the craziest experience you've had. Just maybe a call that you've had that was like very memorable. Maybe, or even the grossest thing. I'm sure you saw a lot of gross things.
Yes, there is some. The grossest thing I ever seen, there was a homeless family that a guy called and asked if I would come and do some plumbing on a little project for him, just to help this family out so they'd have some place to live.
Mm-hmm.
And we got down to where I needed to set a toilet and hook up a sink, and they had set the toilet on a piece of pipe, and then they start to use the toilet, and they couldn't flush and it couldn't drain, so it filled clear up and over the top of the toilet. And I just looked at it and said, I won't touch it.
Burn the house down.
You put it in there, you go clean it.
Yeah.
So they went out and cleaned it, and I'm like, that's got to be the worst I ever seen. The other one that I seen, we went out on a house, and my father-in-law was working for him at the time, and he was trying to help these people that didn't have very much money. And so we went out to work on their kitchen sink. Drain was plugged, and they had dishes stacked all over the place. But, the drain didn't work, so you could understand it. But their countertops were worn out, so the Formica had big holes in it, and it wasn't seated down on the wood very good, and the cockroaches were running underneath in between the Formica and the countertop wood.
Oh my
And
gosh.
we're trying to scoot them away so we can clean the drain.
Huh.
And so that was somewhat gross, I guess.
Oh my gosh.
And then we had a commercial job out here, the old Fritzy. Was it Fritzy?
Mm-hmm.
The Nally's plant out across from IFA. They called one day and they needed some work on their septic tank. And the only thing we could do was pump the tank out as much sewage as possible. Then we had to climb in there and do the work. So that was kind of gross.
Oh my gosh.
So that's my grossest ones.
Yeah.
And they were all memorable.
Oh yeah, for sure. Oh
As far
my
as jobs that I liked, that
Yeah.
were memorable. We did when Utah had the Olympics, was that 2002?
2002? Yeah.
We did the kitchen for the Olympics in Salt Lake, where the President of the United States and all the other countries and stuff would come to eat dinner. And we had to guarantee that they could operate that kitchen plumbing-wise 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, from the beginning of the Olympics to the end, without it shutting down for any reason.
Oh my gosh.
And we went up and plumbed that and done that, and I thought that was a good job.
That's really
So that's a
cool.
memorable one.
Yeah.
It's like there's not that many people get that opportunity.
No.
So we enjoyed that.
That's a great opportunity. Oh my goodness. Like, do you have any advice that you would give someone that's starting a small business? And we could talk about maybe the pros and cons of being a business owner.
Okay. Well, as far as giving somebody some advice about getting into business, most people think that I'm going to make a lot of money if I'm in business. And I believe that's the wrong way to look at going into business. I think that you go into business to help people, to serve people, get to know people, and you be really honest and upfront, and you serve those people to the best of your ability. Money will follow.
Yeah.
But money is not what you go into business for,
No.
in my opinion.
Yeah.
And so I think that number one is people. we had such a good working relationship with our customers was that even after I had retired and we would see where one of our customers would pass away, we had done work for their kids as well. And I would always call them and tell them, hey, sorry, I heard about your mom and dad. And we would talk about it. And they're like, what plumber does that?
Yeah.
Nobody does that.
Yeah.
I care about my people that we work for. And I think that's the number one thing, is to care about the people you work for. Don't go in there for the dollar, go in there for the people. So that would probably be my number one thing. Number two thing is that if you're going to start a business, I went to a seminar one time and they said that 1 in 5 businesses fail. The reason 1 in 5 businesses fail is because you go into business and you say, well, okay, I'm going to start this business, but if it doesn't work, I'm going to do. If it doesn't work out, I'm going to do. That means you always have another door to walk through. When you go into business, you walk into that door, there's no other doors. You walk into it, you give it your all, and you make it work.
That's great advice.
That's the two. My dad gave me some counsel one time when I was working for him and I was really young. And I went to a motorcycle shop to go to work for a while in between the upholstery stuff, because I was racing dirt bikes, so I wanted to do something different. And my dad says, every job you go into it as if you were the owner. You learn everything you can possibly learn about that business. You may not be interested in starting a business in that field, but you will find that things go from business to business, certain traits go. And he says, you learn everything you can and you'll become the most valuable employee. So I thought that was good advice from my dad.
Yeah, I like that. Did you have any cons? Like, what are some of the hard things about owning a business?
The hard things was, I think the hard things for me is the way we operated our business and serving the people. When it come to time to retire, I had to get rid of my cell phone, a number that I'd had for a lot of years, because people would call me and physically and mentally and emotionally, everything. I couldn't do it anymore. I was retiring for a reason.
Yeah.
And that was really difficult on me. But your time isn't yours when you're in business for yourself. And that's probably not the right way to do it, but that's how I did it. And it took a lot of time to operate a business. If I wanted to take a vacation, I don't have paid vacation. If I got sick, I didn't have a sick day. And there was times I'd be out in the office 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning doing paperwork because I didn't have time to do it during the day. But then there was other times where I would come home and tell Nita, look, I got 3 days. We don't have any real work that's pushing us. If we're going to take vacation, we're doing it now. And we'd get in the car and take off. And so that was kind of nice. And we enjoyed that. And that happened often.
That's good. I like that. Being an employer is hard as well. What's hard about being an employer and having employees? Some of the issues that you might run into with that.
Well, I always had, when I would do interviews for new employees, I'd always ask them, what do you expect from my company? What are you coming for? What is it that you want to gain? And I wanted to hear their answers to see, how genuine they were going to be. What do you want from me? And then I would always say, okay, this is what you want from me, but this is what I expect from you. Are you willing to give that? And I would always ask, how's your driving record? And every one of them had perfect driving record. Our insurance company, if you had one ticket, they would not let us hire that person off of one ticket, a moving violation ticket. And I had people that would call me, I'd hire them, and it'd be like, say, a Friday, and they call me in the middle of the week or the weekend on Sunday or Saturday and say, hey, I'm sorry, but my license is revoked. Could you still hire me? I was like, what? So trying to find somebody that was really honest and really cared, that was tough. That was really hard for me because when I said something, I meant it, and I wanted to be honest, and I wanted them to be honest. I had one employee that filled out the paperwork. I'm reading through his resume, asked him what he wanted from our company, what he expected to get from our company. And he says, I expect to work for you for approximately 2 years. I'm going to get a list of all your customers and I'm going to take them and go into business for myself. And I thought, who's going to hire you? I'm not. So a lot of interesting things like that.
Yeah.
You're trying to hire somebody. So I like people to be honest.
Yeah.
For me,
Makes
that's
a huge difference.
yes.
Yeah. That's good. This is kind of random, but how do you figure out what to charge? Like, because you have your parts if you have to replace stuff, so you have to charge for parts and your time.
Mm-mm.
Like, is each job different? Do you have a flat rate for how you charge for your time? Is it that, I mean, I feel like you could charge if it's a pain in the ass job. There's a charge for that.
Well, sometimes you want to charge for
Yeah.
that.
See, how do you do all that?
Yeah, sometimes the customer can be that way, and you're like, okay, I'm going to charge you double.
Yeah.
Call me back. But
Yeah.
no, I didn't have a problem with that much. But when I first started business, it was what's everybody charging,
Yeah.
and then you kind of base your prices. And usually you say, oh, okay, I'll do it for $5 an hour less than they will.
Mhm.
And you think, oh wow, okay, I'm going to stay busy. I went to a seminar one time, and the guy says, how do you add up what you charge for to your customer? How do you know what to charge? And I'm like, well, just call around. He says, that's the first thing you never do. You never call around to find out what the price is. He says, it doesn't matter what the price is for them. Everybody's overhead's different.
True.
You get some people that advertise on TV that they're paying that money. They got to recover that money somehow. But they got to charge for it in their price. You get a guy that don't charge for TV or don't advertise on TV. He don't have that. He's got lower overhead. He can charge less money. So he says the best thing to do is to sit down and add up every bit of your costs. What does it cost you? The insurance for your truck, the insurance for your employee, if you have to pay overtime, sick days, vacation days, what are you paying per hour? What's the maintenance on your truck to replace the tires and the oil and the maintenance on your truck? The power that it takes to run your office, your secretary that's not out doing the job, but she needs to be paid. How do you figure all of that up? And he says, just go home, add it all up and see what it is. So I thought, okay, I'm going to find out I'm making a lot of money. So I go home and I sit down and I start writing it all out on paper. Found out I was losing $40 an hour.
Oh my.
And I'm like, that can't continue to happen. So I thought, all right, I'm going to find out if the guy's right. It doesn't matter what you charge. Your customers, if you treat them right and do what you tell them you're going to do, they will come back.
Yep.
So I thought, all right, I got to raise my prices. I raised them $40 an hour. And because I was charging $100 at the time and I went to $140. And I thought, I'm going out of business. I know I'm going to go out of business. And my customers still came to me. They were just as happy at 100 as they was at 140. But I was happier because now I could pay all my overhead and I wasn't struggling. So you never call around to find out what the price of the other guy is. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
He can charge whatever he wants. He might be losing $40 an hour. And you're saying, well, I'll do it for $5 less. Well, you're losing 45 and he's only losing 40.
Yeah.
You'll go out of business first.
Well, in my mind too, a small business, there's some loyalty there. If you do a job and I'm really happy, I'm going to be loyal to you. I'd be happy to pay you what you want to help you out too.
Yep.
For your family. And
that's exactly how it works.
Yeah.
Yep. That's why you don't go to work for the dollar. You go to work for the people.
Yeah.
Because if you make those people happy. So my theory was when I'd send a guy out to do a job and he was going in to do a service call, when he left, that house was cleaner when he left than he was when he got there. And he's like, well, how do I do that? And I says, you take in your soap, you take in your towels, and you wash that sink or you wash that tub. You clean everything up and you make it shine. And I said, if there's any hard water on the faucet, you take and clean that off and you make that sparkle. So when they walk in there, they see it like, wow, look how clean this is.
Yeah.
And they call you back, and they do.
Yeah. No, that's a great philosophy. And it worked well. I think it worked well for you.
Yes, it worked
That's good
for us.
What are, lots of people have a misunderstanding, I think, of plumbing too. Like, what are some things that you would want the public to know about it? I mean, sometimes I feel like when you have to call someone to come fix something for you, there's already an automatic, maybe a negative vibe that like, oh, this is going to be so expensive. Like, what are some things that you think are misunderstood?
Well, we had a thing where we gave free estimates, even if it was for a service call. And that service call was only going to be $140. But we'd give you a free service call or a free estimate. We'd come out, look at the faucet. Here, what's going to cost to fix that? We had a lot of customers that would call us on the phone. How much do you charge? I said, I don't know. What kind of problem you got? Well, I've got a sink that leaks. Well, where's it leaking from? Well, I don't know. Well, I don't know how to price that then.
Yeah.
I can't see it. So in order to be fair to you and fair to me, I need to look at it. But I do that for free. And they said, yeah, you'll get in my house and then you'll just upgrade it and you'll charge me and I can't get rid of you. And I said, all you got to do is say no. We'll turn around, walk away, and we won't bother you at all. We'll never call you back. We walk out the door and we're done. I would say 75% of the people let us do that. And we would leave and they would always call us back. Oh, well, I called so-and-so. Yeah, we want you back here. And then we would come back and we'd do the job. But we have to see it in order to price it.
Yeah.
And we were also under the belief that if that homeowner wanted to fix it themselves, that was good. I believed in if you can fix it yourself, do it.
Yeah.
Ask me questions. I'll tell you how to do it. Most people didn't have the tools. Didn't want to spend the money for the tools. It was cheaper to hire us to do it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and you have to be paid for your time. I mean, you go to the doctor.
Yeah.
Be called a doctor plumber to come look at what's wrong. You need to be paid for your time. And then I like the philosophy you have too of if they want to fix it, great.
Yeah.
You're not going to try to upcharge them on anything or take advantage of them.
If you do, you lost that customer.
Yeah, for sure.
People are smart.
Yeah.
But sometimes we overthink things and we don't trust the guy that's coming because we don't know him. And so have him come out to your house. Just be smart enough to say, I don't like what you're telling me.
Yeah.
Leave.
Yeah.
But if you believe in it, then have him do the job.
Yeah.
And so I would come out, and I don't believe in pressure sales at all. No pressure at all. I was talking to a guy the other day. Says when he sends a plumber out, he better come back with at least $2,500 to $4,000 every job he does. I don't believe in that type of work. You go out, you repair what they need. Don't try to scare him into doing something. He'll have a customer.
Yeah, that guy's in it for the money.
Yes, exactly.
Money driven.
Yep.
What kind of tips do you have for homeowners that might prevent things from happening? Is there anything? I mean, most people could probably clean out their P-trap, but they don't want to, type of thing.
Well, in most cases, there's some plumbing stuff is preventable. Some is just wear and tear on the system that is just, it just needs to be fixed. But two things that we got called out on a lot was water heaters, and we got called out on drain cleaning. And the biggest probably return job we got was flushable wipes.
Yeah.
It says flushable on them.
Yeah.
Told me they really are.
Well,
so, but people would use them and they'd say, well, it says flushable, so I'm going to continue. Okay, call me next month. I'll be back out clean it for you. Eventually they will get smart and they'll quit using them. But if you run a lot of hot water down your drains, very rare will you have somebody come out and clean your drains.
One thing I thought of, I just lost my thought. Oh, hair. That's part of the drain cleaning.
Yeah.
Ladies' hair.
Yes, that's a big one.
Don't let it go down the drain.
Well, it's okay to go down the drain. So like in a shower, when you don't have enough water that goes down a shower to wash the hair on down the drain, the hair goes down and sits in the P-trap. You can clean that drain yourself. Take a plunger, plunge it a couple of times, the hair goes on down, drains as clean as it was when it was brand new.
Yeah.
Instead of calling a plumber, plunge your own. A bathroom sink, you can kind of do the basin drain on these newer homes. Now the old homes, the old galvanized pipe or cast iron pipe, you need a drain cleaning machine to do that. But the newer homes, the plunger will take care of it. The same with a tub. You can just plunge it a couple of times and the hair's gone. And so that's really not a real problem, other than some people say, you go there and you clean the hair out and they're like, oh, I ain't touching that. That's gross. And it is gross. But I'll pay you to do it. So
I clean mine out all the time.
yeah.
It is
Yeah.
gross.
And it's the best
And
thing.
it's my hair.
And it saves you that
Yeah.
call,
Yeah.
of cleaning that drain.
Yeah. Okay. Is there anything else that you want to add about any of it or that you'd want people to know?
Enjoy what you do.
That's good
Have
advice.
fun and enjoy what you do.
Yeah. It makes a huge difference.
Yes, it does.
Makes
It does.
it go by faster and not so miserable.
Yeah. Yeah, because we've had jobs where I remember when there was they called it a Polar Express come through, and we got really cold here. This is a lot of years ago, but it was in the negatives, like -20. We had people's houses freezing up in the middle of their house. The pipes, because in the middle walls, because the air can circulate between a crawl space and the attic and different things. We didn't insulate very well at that time. And I would go out there and I was just having fun. I was just enjoying it. Like, you'd set your tool down and it would freeze to the ground. So you carry a hammer in your pocket so you can knock the tool loose. But I had fun doing what I was doing, and I enjoyed that. Doesn't matter how cold or how hot it is.
Yeah.
Don't matter what the weather's like, or, just have fun.
Yeah.
That's what you need to do.
Oh, that's great advice. I think that'll be helpful. Thanks for listening to this episode of Chairside Chats. If you enjoyed this episode, give us a follow. For updates on new episodes, follow us at Chairside Chats 24 on Instagram. You can also find us on Facebook at Chairside Chats.